and welcome to a Psychic Affair. Today we're looking at the Lenormand deck. I did put a call out for all hands, but didn't see any of them, so thank you for coming. So because of that, I am revisiting the Lenormand tarot deck. I've got two of them, and I'm going to use both of them. The Lenormand deck is one of my favorites. It's a little deck. It's representative of a woman, Marie, or Marie Anne, or Anne-Marie Lenormand. Marie Anne, it was, who was around in the middle to late 1800s, and, middle 1800s. She was born in 1770 or something like that, before 1800. But she was around during the middle of the 1800s to the 1843 or 45 she died. And the big deal about her was, this was a period of time where there was this burgeoning interest in spirituality. She preceded that. People like Levi and I've forgotten his name, which is terrible, Arthur Waite, who did the Rider-Waite deck, the tarot deck. And, of course, I'm losing names now, and I can see his face and his name's gone. Aleister Crowley. They were all young whippersnappers, and she was already an established, well-known reader. In fact, she was called, in France, she was called the best cartomancer of all time. And she had a lot of fame. She was during the Napoleon era, for those that want to place her in time. And she was the one that really made it a respectable thing, I guess. She made a lot of money. She died with something in the region of 500,000 francs to give to her heirs, of which she had none, which is the equivalent today of somewhere in the region of about 5 million, say, American dollars, 7 million New Zealand dollars, somewhere in there. So it's a lot of money for the time. So she was very well heeled. She didn't want for anything. She was very respectable and respected. She was so influential that there was a period of time where they thought she might even be a spy, where she had some famous, and when we say famous, it's not like celebrity status. We're talking about kings, queens, barons, baronets, Napoleon himself visited her. So she held a lot of sway. She held a lot of what we would call influence, I guess, for her time. I don't doubt that her advisor was very interesting indeed. Thank you. I'm getting a tan, you see. Now, it's either here, going back to blonde, baby. Well, it's really grey, but the black's going, gone. And that's the same black. Drita Marshall, if anybody knows, very good. I stayed with her in Nova Scotia when I went overseas. And one day, what was coming up, Halloween was coming up, and she had two very young teenage daughters at the time, and we were at the supermarket, and I said, well, I think I'll change my hair colour, and gave Raquel and Donna the opportunity to choose the colour. And off they went down the aisle. They were having fun. Isn't that right, Julia? And they were poring over all the colours, and I just accepted whatever they chose, and they chose blue-black, really dark. So I did it, and then, of course, it's a very hard colour to get rid of, so I just stayed with it. And every time I thought about changing it, it became too hard. And in the end, I went on, and I got lighter and lighter while I've been here. And it just kept going almost black. It was just never going to be brown. So I've decided, well, I'd always promised myself that when my hair went the blonde, the platinum blonde that my grandmother's went, I would let my hair grow out, and I think I'm there. Right, 57, and I think I've got platinum blonde hair. So we will see when the black's gone, because it might just look better in the distance. Now, if you want a reading, you can call into the show. You can call in, and the number is 631-353-4342, and the code number is 73226. Now, if you want a reading, call 631-353-4342 and dial also 73226 when you're prompted for the code, which you will be, and we'll give you a Lenormand reading. So I'm a real fan of Mademoiselle or Madame Lenormand. Now, there's this big argument. Do you call her Madame, or do you call her Mademoiselle? Well, she was never married, so technically a Mademoiselle. And, Brian, if you can just affirm that you've called in for a reading. I will take readings from the chat request put out there, but we will give priority to callers as always for the only, that's just fair and right if they've bothered to call in. there's a list around her during a period of time when I can even remember when I've done shows on her specifically. When we were in that time, Madame Blavatsky was start push for the Theosophic Society, and unfortunately there was a lot of faking going on, which of course everybody's seen my cheesecloth photos. Excellent. Brian, excellent. Everybody's seen my cheesecloth photos there's a lot of mediumship rip-off going on. She never engaged in that. She was a card reader. She read your future from the cards, but not so much the future as what's going on in your life. And she would always lay out the whole deck, which is 36 cards, and probably the number that's based on all oracle cards today would be her 36-card deck. Her cards, she had hand-drawn them, so nobody knows exactly. Gotcha, Christy. Nobody knows exactly what her cards look like, but there's a painting, a drawing that was done, which is very well known, and it shows her cards laid out in front of her, and so there's a good idea of how it went, and I believe that she used a combination of her imagery, but also she had poems written on her cards, and she also had regular card numbers like 3 of diamonds, 4 of diamonds. And so normally when I do these, I get the regular playing cards out and the Lenormand deck, which I believe she may have used the combination of the two, or she at least had some of them drawn onto her cards. Very interesting. There's a few renditions of her cards, and these ones are called the Blue Owl. They're actually quite tricky to get sometimes, but they're in great demand. They are probably the closest to her original deck to look at, but I'm pretty sure they're a little bit off still. And there's this more modern version, which I still quite like as well. I can't remember what this one's called. Hang on. It's called, look at my packet, squashed, beaten up, Mystical Lenormand, yeah. So this one's called Mystical Lenormand, and the imagery is just, it's the same actually, but it's more modified, it's prettier, I suppose, and it does poetry on it, and it doesn't have any references to regular cards, but they are basically true to form as best as we can make out. Because it was a time where you made your own cards, then the only cards that were like Lenormands were Lenormands. That's it. There wasn't mass production until the 1900s when Arthur Waite and Ryder got together. If it wasn't for the fact that Ryder's father owned a printing press and a publishing house, and Ryder's a mate of his, it would never have become published the way it was. It would have taken a lot more years anyway before we saw anything like that. Even Aleister Crowley struggled to get his cards out to the masses. We've got a lot of thoughts about that, but it's irrelevant. Aleister Crowley had a woman do all the artwork for his cards, and he developed what the strategy was. What's the strategy for reading the cards? Whereas Arthur Waite's whole idea was the picture is the card, that there is no real meaning. There's a word, there's a phrase, no set meaning for the card. The symbolism on the card is meant to tweak something in your subconscious. And with that tweaking of something in your subconscious, it allows you to bring forward what would be a good reading for somebody. So while we're talking along those lines, we start adding intuition, adding other thoughts to it. But basically, that's what it was. There was a comment made by Arthur Waite, or was it Aleister Crowley? It was Levi. He made a comment about Lenormand that she had no science, because these men all thought of what they were doing as science, by the way. She had no science, could read the cards very accurately, which he found was kind of amazing, and Sedstow published a article along those effects. So they went along to see her, basically, to see how she was doing this, because they were developing their own strategy of cards. Now, Eliphas Levi was very into the depth of meaning. He's probably the deepest meaning explorer. Oh, that's all I've got for that. He would have been the one that he went to the depths of history, exploring documents that are barely becoming available to us, to get the meaning of certain symbols, and symbols that have been used for thousands of years. And he developed some to align with a principle, which was basically a combination of religion, spiritual belief, Eastern philosophy, and it goes all the way back as far as you could imagine. And they were moving away from the religious model and looking for a way not to be fortune telling so much, but more to be able to find an objective way to view your own life, to create something different information. And Arthur Waite took that step further, using a lot of the life information. So did Aleister Crowley, by the way. Neither of those two were completely original. But what Arthur Waite wanted to do is he wanted to, for a way that we could understand the human psyche. So he considered himself a scientist, and he was looking at probably what would be the first archetypal reference, way before Carl Jung came along, archetypal reference of human nature. And so the Minor Arcana in a regular tarot deck looks at that. It looks at what we have a tendency to do. We have a tendency to lie. We have a tendency to defend. We have a tendency to get busy and worry. We have a tendency to talk behind people's backs, tendencies. And then the Major Arcana, the cards that were about what we're supposed to do. They're the spiritual element of living. What's underneath that behavior? What causes that behavior, or what can rectify that behavior? So we've got these spiritual and this personality self, I guess. And I really love that when you think about Arthur Waite's time. And, of course, he was exploring all of these philosophies and very well-traveled man, and was trying to incorporate a human model into his cards. The fact that they became a fortune-telling device doesn't detract from the amazing thing that he did, really, predating the modern zodiac references, but including the classical zodiac references or astrological references. They're all in there. So back to Lenormand, and I'm going to pick up Brian now. He was first on, and then I'm going over to Christy. Hiya, Brian. Are you there? Boop, boop. I've unmuted Brian. Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me okay? Yep. Okay. I've just unmuted you, Brian, but I couldn't hear you. So I'll unmute. Did you want to talk, or were you just... Yeah, excellent. So I'm talking to myself. It's dead air. No problemo. So I'm going to draw you some cards. So I'm going to draw 2 from each deck for you, Brian, and then read those. Oh, there he comes. There's somebody's coming. Oh! View of somebody's outside. That's awesome. 2 from each deck. Talk is okay. Well, I unmuted you, but you didn't talk. Can you hear me? Can you talk? Can you try? So there's something wrong with your mic because I can't hear any sounds. There's no sound from you at all. He doesn't have to... there you go. You're on. Okay. Were you muted?
Yes.
Yes, I knew something was going on because normally you can hear sort of sounds and noises. Now, in the Lenormand deck, if you're planning on using upside down, doesn't matter. She never read upside down cards. Cards have a set meaning. For me, I never change the meaning of a card. If it's upside down, then to me it just means that area is a little bit challenged or you're not recognizing it. So what we've got from you is we've got these are actually lilies, the lily card, and we've got the tree card. There we go. And on the other deck, the older deck, we've got the sun, never a bad card, right? And we've park. Mm-hmm. And we've got the park. Now, the interesting thing, the park is basically about socializing, talking to other people, doing group things. It's a really well expected for you at the moment. When we've got the park and the sun together, that's the relationship we're talking about. When you've got the Lenormand deck, the individual card does sort of matter, but its relationship to the card it's drawn with or that it's flat matters even more. So the sun and the park together say that the best thing you can do for yourself at the moment is be social, get out there, join groups, or make the most of any groups you're already a member of, and do anything that involves other people. Park is about fortuitous meetings, which is what happened when she was around. You went along the promenade in the park and you saw the people you needed to see. People had business meetings. It all happened there. So this park card is representative of that you can get a developmental situation. You can meet the right people. Circumstance and happenstance come together in public forums or in group gatherings or in a particular group or social engagement. So that's the thing to do now to get the best out of life going forward. Now we've got the Tree of Abundance and the Lily. Now the Lily is always going to be a nice card. It's about home and hearth. It's about being comfortable, but it's also about letting go of old ideas or beliefs. It's also old things. If you've got a little bit of baggage in there or something that you know in your mind, because we always know, don't we, that you need to let go of, then of course between the two, I'd say that the word abundance, which is the tree, applies when you let go of those things, because these cards are together. This Tree of Abundance isn't full of fruit. In the Lenormand deck, it's full of birds, it's full of funny animals and rabbits and all of those wonderful things. So it's not quite about communion with nature, but it's about letting nature take its course. So if there's grief or if there's angst in any situation of your past, when nature takes its course, it's a natural thing to eventually let that or move past it or to lessen the impact of that. If you've got a belief that you've been trying to move past or a structure you're trying to move past, let nature take its course. By doing something differently, it will naturally put itself out the back door. It will naturally sort of disappear, okay, and leave the way open for something else. How is that, Brian?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, fine. Is there anything else we can do for you today?
Well, yeah, can admit of things.
I missed that. Can you say it again?
Getting rid of past thoughts, and it's my most difficult thing.
I can't hear it. Can you type that into the chat? It just keeps breaking up. So when it breaks up, I can't tell what you're trying to say. I heard the word passports. Moving past is his most difficult thing. Oh, passports. Okay, sorry. And I'm not laughing at, I've blocked him off. I don't know whether I did that or whether he did that. Yeah, he's still there, Brian. Moving past is the most difficult thing. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, that's excellent. Sometimes to do that successfully, you need to not focus on the past. That's what that tree is telling me. There's all these other aspects. It's what you focus on that allows naturally for those things to fall behind you. I always think of, especially with grief or especially when we've let something go that was important to us, I always think of release as the way of, we start always when we are in grief or when we have got something stuck in there, we're always looking back at it, aren't we? We're always looking back at it. And I sort of see the idea that the best thing that you can do, and you know a person's healing, is when you start to look forward. And when you start to look forward and you look at where you're going, and it just naturally puts those in behind you. And with grief, it's a natural process. It starts that way, that we're looking back, we're thinking of that all the time. We're thinking of what we lost, who we lost, whatever. But a time should come when in actual fact you're now thinking of the possibilities, what you can have, where you can go. And that's what I mean about natural. Naturally, the other thing falls behind you. There's a kia kaha is a New Zealand Māori saying, and in English it follows the idea that if you always face the sun, your shadow will always fall behind you. And I think it's a lovely sentiment. While you're looking at your shadow, you can only see what's already behind you, but it's actually incidental. A shadow has nothing. It's got nothing. It's a done deal. So you'll always be moving beyond your shadow one way, shape or another. So that might be something to have a think about. And if moving past something is a real challenge, think about meditation or hypnotherapy to help you just boot it, give it a quick boot if it's been a long time. It gets very hard to think when you've been spending a lot of time thinking backward, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Which is different to backward thinking, Brian. Just thought I'd clarify. Yeah.
Meditation. That is really a good thing. You can go really. Once meditation, then you still floats back the whole time.
Well, I think then you need to just look at doing it differently. There's a difference between sitting there and doing a meditation and going, that makes me feel nice for a while, and then a day or two later I feel that way. I'm talking targeted, as in find something, and if it is hypnosis, it's hypnosis. Find something that is to move forward. When we are focused on the very thing we're trying to release, we're not releasing it. And this is what concerns me about cord cutting, which you see a lot of spiritualists putting out there, which has been out there for so long now. If it worked, I think everybody did one. The focus itself is always, not always, but usually on the very thing it needs not to be on. So while you're focused on that, you're not focused forward. If you've been doing it for a long time, the word practice comes into play. If you start finding yourself in a mindset, you want to run interference. There's an interrupter, I call it, for hypnotherapy. You bring an interrupter into the game. That is to say, oh, my mind's wandered back to that thing. Oh, look, bird. Oh, look, sunshine. Oh, look, tree. Now, it might seem like something very little, but it breaks it up. And every time you do that, it gets harder and harder to stay in that train of thought and follow it right through, which could last hours, it could last minutes, it could last days or weeks or months, whatever. But it doesn't allow it the time to get you down the way it did. Thinking deliberately, and this is a deliberate action, act or thought, deliberately go and do something you like. Deliberately listen to a song that makes you feel good. Deliberately go and listen to me burbling on and on and on and on. Whatever it takes, go find it, go do it. And it doesn't matter if you do a different meditation every time or if you find yourself doing different release things. It doesn't matter if you're doing it as you're focusing forward. Once you've experienced the failure to release something, confidence becomes an issue. So go and do something that's about confidence. And that's what I mean about going forward. Go and do something that's about planning ahead. Go and do something that's about releasing procrastination, whatever it might be. Start focusing on the forward motion rather than focusing on the backward motion. Okay?
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Dorothy.
You're very welcome, Brian. Sorry it's a bit breaky up here. I hope I'm not breaky uppy. I'm Pixie Who. Christy, are you there?
Hi, Dorothy. Can you hear me?
Clear as a bell. Clear as a bell. Boo-hoo. So I think if Brian, if you were using your video, were you using your direct dial into the show? Is that right? Yes or no? If he was, for those that are in foreign countries, I think that the direct dial is a little bit of an issue. We have Skype calling, free Skype calling. It's in the chat. You can go, when you first come into the show, it's in the chat. But if you go to the bottom of your window, you will actually see Skype. At the bottom right-hand side, along with the help and the complaints, then you'll see the word Skype. You click on it, and you can Skype on in so that if you have that kind of problem, it's taken care of. Thank you very much, Jenny. Thank you very much, IntuiTalks. I forgot to do our little IntuiTalks blurb at the beginning of the show because I got a bit behind there. So I'll draw two questions. Do you have a question, or would you like me to just draw the cards? Normally with Lenormand, I just draw. But
the drawing was great.
Pardon me?
If you wanted to draw two, that would be lovely.
Fantastic. We'll just do that. Two cards there. How's your weather doing?
Actually, it's pretty amazing here in Michigan because we've got a little Indian summer going on. It's about 70 degrees, but the sun's out, and you can smell fall in the air. It's a little more crisp.
Oh, beautiful, though. Hey, we've just had our weather just amp up. And we were in T-shirts 2 weeks ago, and then it just got a sudden chill. And then we were all bundled up, and we were all wimpy. And then somebody said to me, "Oh, it's so cold." And I looked, and it was 14 degrees Celsius. I said, "Oh, I think maybe we are a bit wimpy up here." So we've got the mountain. And if you see anything under my fingernails, I'm making bread. Don't worry, it's not dirt. And we've got the puppy dog. Look at the puppy dog. Isn't he beautiful? In front of the fire. Yeah. Now we've got the stork, and that's not what you think. The stork is not what you think, and we've got the park again. Okay. Now the relationship between the storks and the park. The storks are not about babies. This is the Lenormand deck. Lenormand, Lenormand. Both of these decks are a representation of hers, but this particular one, this is my favorite one, is called the Blue Owl, OWL, Lenormand deck. Not lemonade, GG by Jingos. The lemonade deck. Yeah, so with the park and with the storks, it suggests too that there's a lot of work to be done. The storks are really about building. They are about nesting, not about babies. You know, that's why I made that little comment. And so they're about one thing at a time, putting things together one step at a time. And before you know it, you have a very strong structure. Again, you've got the park, so you may need other people, or you may need training, you may need the influence or the use of others, partnerships, friendships, groups to get that structure in place the way you would like it. It is an interesting pairing, actually. So with that, there's the Lenormand deck have these, I won't read them out because they're kind of dire today, so I won't read them out. But the little poems are kind of all negative and scary, very 18th century, 17th century, 19th century. The 1800s are the 19th century here, so the 19th century. Really interesting cards. So with that, of course, there's that understanding that there's two stalks. So it's either a partnership or forming a bond with somebody else or getting a teacher, trainer, training kind of relationship going, or whichever way you want to look at that, but also needing that understanding that no man's an island is the park that says, you can have fortuitous meetings, somebody could say the words you need to hear that could come from other places. Because these decks are old style, I suppose, there's no way really to bring that forward in a modern sort of sounding way, except to go, this is what they did back then. They did run into people. They did develop their, connections, networking. That's the word I'm looking for. Their networking. They did all of these things that allowed them to, I'm being yelled at from outside by a little old lady. Yeah. So there's this whole, I know, she's like, I'm here, come here. And she's standing there now. I always feel bad because I can see her right there and they can see me and I'm like, oh, sorry. So this is important to me. I think that you need to pay attention over the next wee while of the conversations you have with people. And if you're looking at networking or developing something, the right person's in the wings waiting to come towards you. Now, the mountain's always what a mountain is, right? The mountain's always the challenge. So perhaps don't focus on the challenge, because also in the mountain, if you want to look at this mountain, it's got this beautiful sunshine shining from the other side. And again, we've got the stalks matching up with this. This is a one step at a time. You can only get up to the top of the mountain. There's no other way to go. But once you're there, the sun shines on you. So it's put the effort in, do the work, whatever it is you need to commit to. You've got to be committed to get to the top of the mountain. If you stop halfway up, you're all over. You're never going to get there. But the puppy dog I quite like, because the puppy dog is about loyalty and friendship. So it suggests, I should just say dog, but it's the fire, the warmth of friendship. It's the warmth of a mentor. It's the warmth of somebody helping you achieve that. You're not, in other words. However that friendship comes through, however that bond, it's a bonded relationship. It's a person you can trust. You can trust them implicitly. They won't let you down. So if you've got concerns in those areas, the suggestion here is that just continue working towards what it is that you want right now. Make sure that you are committed to what you want. I was thinking that this morning quite early, it was quite an interesting thing. I talk to a lot of people, and when I do readings most days, somebody at some point during the week is going to say, but I've tried everything, or but I'm doing everything I can to get where I want to go. Usually, though, the truth is when you question them a little bit, they're just doing everything they want to do rather than everything they can do. There's a difference. Sometimes we have to go left or right of that and do things we don't really want to do to put us in the position of what it is we would like, whether it's working a job we don't like to make sure we've got enough income to be happy, or to pay for the very thing that we really want to do, which we may have to train in or get a qualification in. So it's kind of an interesting energy to think about whether you are committed, and that's where the word commitment comes into me. If you're committed to that goal, then what you do can't really just be what you want if that's not working for you. Sometimes you have to move outside of that comfort zone, or sometimes you have to take on a bigger commitment to get where you want to go. So does that help you at all?
Yes. Thank you, Dorothy.
Fantastic. Thank you for calling in, Christy.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of the show. Is there anybody in the chat who would like to have a reading? Now that we've done those, I'll just enter that in. There's the phone number if you would like to call in. The phone number is 631-353-4342. And the code you enter is 73226. With the Lenormand deck, one of the more interesting aspects of it, if I had my glasses close, but I don't know what I've done with them, I was doing my fishing gear last night, and I would have been over there somewhere, putting it all together before I went out for a fish. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. I caught this huge snapper the other day, and it was 19 pound 0.29 ounces, and that meant I was just under a 20-pound fish, which would have got me a nice pin. I would have got a 20-pound pin. And so since I haven't caught a fish that big, I have on a boat but not off land before, the chances are I'll have to wait another 3 years. That's how long it took me to catch that one before I find one that might actually come up to par. Yeah, it's been 3 years fishing here. And so, and then I caught it. So, Drita, would you like me to draw a couple of cards for you, since I know it's later for you than everybody else? Nova Scotia, here we come, dun dun dun. So 2 cards of each, and we'll see how we go with that. And, just as an aside, I have got a little bit of change around you, Miss Drita. I'll talk about that at the end of those, though. Okay, so we've got some interesting stuff going on. We've got the heart card. Yeah, dark here, a very, very fast-talking person. Just saying, very fast-talking person. And here I've got the clouds. Yes, I don't mind at all. The clouds with the monkey, and you'll see the dragon. Can you see the dragon inside the cloud there? Okay. And, of course, the dark clouds there. So this is a really interesting one, because the monkey is spontaneous, it's fun, because it's drawn. Oh, I should show you the other 2 first. Sorry. We've got the book. We've got the book, and we know what that means, right? And we've got the house. Right, the book and the house are together. So back to these. We've got the heart. With the dragon inside the cloud, dragon's not a bad thing. The dragon is, we can't necessarily see the good coming. Our vision is clouded, quite literally. We need to peer through our own belief, our own defense mechanism, our own fear, whatever that might be, our own concerns, to see the goodness, okay, to see what's there. Now, the monkey's interesting. He's got a parrot on his head and he's got an apple in his hand. The monkey's pretty happy where he's at, and doesn't necessarily see the benefits of making any changes. But by sitting in that comfort zone, I guess, we could miss what is so magical about the dragon. From that time and now, we've got the luck dragon, we've got the Chinese dragons, there's 5 of them, and they help man, by the way, to go from space to place to space to place. They're considered incredibly good luck, just so as we're clear. Because we've got this very dark cloud coming away from that, we may not be seeing the opportunity for what it is. We may not be seeing how good it can be. We may be really just looking at our past experiences, our fears, our concerns. Oh, I should say you, because it's not my reading. Because we've got the heart, shall I show you that again? There's only one meaning of this heart. It's a choice in love. It's making a choice in love. It's not the tarot deck. It doesn't mean the same thing as the lovers in the tarot deck. In this deck, they've added that kind of component, but it's not anywhere near that. One has to move past one's ego, if you like, which is the fear, the concerns, anger, anything, wanting what you want, and move into that range of allowing that maybe you do need somebody else with you to gain exactly what you want. So it's looking at the opportunity and how good something can be rather than fearing what could go wrong. How's that? In a nutshell. Because we've got the book and we've got the house together, the house is security, okay? The house is security. The house is about home and heart. It's about feeling secure, money in the bank. All of that make you feel secure. The book is about not knowing enough as a rule. The book is about learning more, looking at those things, getting to know, getting to know what's for real rather than predetermining it. Predictive thinking is a danger here, where one predicts a future based on a past experience. There's no such prediction, not really. It's not really a genuine intuition. It's not a genuine prediction. But what it is using a past experience to determine what might happen in the future, and then being defensive of that or behaving as if that's going to happen when there's no real indication of that. And that can cause problems that don't need to be there. So this says get to know what's going on before you jump into the fray, whether it's to do with a person or not. It could be in other relationships as well. And you will find that your security is intact at the end of that you won't feel vulnerable, you won't necessarily feel that, you could lose something, those kind of feelings. You won't lose your money, all of that stuff. Security being the primary here, you need to know the facts before you make a decision or before you act in a way that is short on knowledge, I suppose, and maybe long on concerns and feeling out of zone a little bit, whichever that might be. So relax and get to know. Take your time, I guess. If you've got to learn something, go learn it. If you don't understand something, find a way to understand it before you act, before you respond, and you'll be a lot happier. We are shifting ownership of the inn. New owners are taking over October the 7th. Makes sense then. Don't assume that they're going to dump you all. Don't assume that things are going to change particularly. Get the facts first. That makes sense for that then. It even looks like you're in, doesn't it? That building, I've shuffled it in now. It even looks like the inn with the nice big staircase going up and a few stories on that building. So I quite like that. It's your job. It's your security. So yeah, if somebody's saying things to you that make you feel unsure about that, then allow yourself to just wait and see, learn more, know more. Don't think you've got to dump and run just in case. I don't see that would be the wise way to go. And with the book of knowledge being in the cards there, wait till you hear it, whatever's going on from the horse's mouth, or it's written and given to you, so that you don't find yourself back on the back foot. They're putting a few stories up also. There you go. So there's more going on, not less going on for you. So I don't see any badness coming from that as an aside. So we've got Gigi, 2 cards of each for Gigi. Excellent, Drita. I'm glad to hear that. I would have been surprised if anybody tried to pull that down. It's such a beautiful building. What's the name of the inn again? We might as well put it out there for everybody to... What's the name of the inn? Yeah, that's a shame. Drita's boss had been her boss for a very long time, died a little while ago. The Halifax Waverley Inn. If anybody's ever there or wants to stay in Halifax, that's a really beautiful, beautiful place to stay. It's got a few little dead people wandering around. Just saying. It's actually a very beautiful old building. How old is it? When was it built? The Waverley Inn was built in sometime very long time ago. 1876, I think. Yeah, 1876. Yeah. 1876, it was built, the most beautiful building with this beautiful staircase. It's just a really lovely place, and I just loved it when I was visiting. Right down in town in Halifax, so if you've got business in Halifax or if you want to be in the main city there, it's a perfect place to stay without that big hotel-y feel. Reasonable rates too, I understand, and I know some of the staff, so I know you'll be well looked after. Very spiritual staff. Okay, so what we've got for GG is we've got the woman card. Okay, now there's this woman card and there's another woman card in this. They are a little bit different, so we'll talk about that. And we've got the mouses. Look at that, the mouses. I love it at Christmas time. I've got to say, the snow and after Christmas, the snow and the lights is just gorgeous. Here we've got the clouds. This is a different cloud to the other one, right? The other cloud is something that you looked into because it had a dragon. So we've got the dark clouds, or the clouds looming. And we've also got the night sky, okay? Now, the clouds looming in the night sky is very, very interesting for you, Gigi. So what that means is you need to be very on the ball. You need to make sure that you are embracing the cosmic whole, if you like, not necessarily the night sky, as it were, but you need to understand universal laws at the moment. You need to understand the bigger pictures rather than focusing on the clouds or the storms that are coming. Every cloud shifts. No cloud sits anywhere for long. It's got to keep moving. That's the big picture, really. It's got to keep moving. But sometimes we need to look at that whole bigger picture, that the cloud's there, but we can still see the universe all around the outside. It's like, to me, being on a plane. These two cards together, like being on a plane. People underneath, you're seeing all this cloud beneath you, and you're in the sunshine. absolutely glorious. As soon as you dip down, it could be a grey, foggy day. It could be all that going on there. And that's all those people experience. And you've just experienced, by being in an airplane, you've just experienced both of those things. So you have an understanding in that moment that actually that sun is always shining, whether we can see it or not. I don't want it to sound cutesy trite, because I'm not that kind of person. But yeah, that's the whole feeling. Now, what we've got going on right now is more about these three fellas. See these three fellas? These are irritations. These mouses are irritations. They can also be theft or people trying to take what is rightfully yours. It can be things disappearing, things getting lost. Yes, three blind mice. It's like thieves in the night. You know, they sneak in and they take from you without giving anything back. And they are irritating rather than life-threatening. But it says to me that you may need to watch your stuff if it's theft. If you know somebody's taking from you, and this is usually a physical card, like we're not talking emotional people takers, that kind of thing. We're talking something fairly specific. There's less, or whatever they are involved in around you, leaves you less of what you would like, or can ruin something that you like. In this case, because the mouses have got into the cheese, the whole cheese is kind of ruined for anybody else. You know, it's only for them after that they've taken from it. But they aren't honest. They come through the night. They come in secret. So you may need to be on the alert. And again, seeing this big picture, may need to be on the alert. Now, because I've got the woman card there, this is the card that says you're kind of in control of this, that you can easily know what's going on. You can be the regal person. You can be the person seeing it and stepping back from it. You don't have to buy into it. You're the person with the power, if you like, even if it doesn't feel like it. It's a very independent, strong card, this one. This isn't about the woman stepping out into the world for marriage. This isn't about the woman. That's what the other card is. You know, the woman is really in her social structure, the power in her social structure. This is a strong, independent woman. She has a white feather at the very front of her head. She's drawing attention to herself. So it's that case with the other card. It's like, I know, and you know that I know, and I know that you know that I know. It's that kind of energy around it. By making sure the other person knows that you know, you could nip it in the bud without necessarily confrontation. But this woman has no concern about confrontation. She has no concern about saying what it is she needs to say, about addressing a problem or an issue. When there are a lot of irritations, which is always possible, considering we've got the clouds looming and we've got the mice, as a pairing, I would see that as somebody not being honest, that they're trying to cover their real intention or their true intention or what they're actually doing, which could possibly take you by surprise if you don't keep your eye on the ball. So I think that your intuition is going to be called on seriously for a wee while. Oh, it is bad? That's a shame. Thinking very seriously about how you can maintain the controls. Absolutely no problem, Christy. And maybe be very, very clear so that they are absolutely clear and know what your position is and what you do know, and that you are watching. Whatever you need to do, you know your situation. But whatever you need to do to make sure that they do know and I know, so this is perfect. I was like, am I overdoing it with I know that you know that you know that I know that you know kind of thing? But anyway, so there we go. With that, we've got the main card, as I see it here, is this one here for the resolution or solution. When you're looking at cosmically, it's not a holistic look where, you know, we forgive everybody and love everybody. What it means is I can see the stars that are out there in the distance, and I know that things have changed from the time that light originally shone to the time that I saw it. So if I can keep my eye on the track, like I know where it's going, I know where it's been, I can actually work out where it's going to end up. And I can plan accordingly. I can be in charge of this. I can take control of this to the best that I can for me. We're not worried about anybody else, but for yourself, you know, what it is that you need for you. As an aside, just an energy that I've got there, I've got maybe the October, maybe the 13th to the 23rd, will be very telling to finalize this, to put it out the back door for you. And it's just really up to you whether you're the one doing that or whether it's done for you, I think. So it feels like there's your final period through that. So I hope you've got that working for you, Gigi. Sorry I couldn't give you a Trissy La bit of reading. Christy, who? Christy, who? You're very welcome. It's always a pleasure. 2 cards from one deck, 2 cards from the other. The reason I do this with these decks is because they really, reading them this finely with just 2 cards or even 4 cards from a deck is a little bit narrow because it is about the relationships, and I like to see a little bit more than we're seeing otherwise. Well, who's getting the good reading today, Christy, who? We got a little bunch of flowers, a little bunch of daisies, and we've got the 4-leaf clover. I know, let's all bash her. It's like, what can we do to break that woman down? Oh, we'll draw the next card, okay? We've got a second stalk card here. So here's the stalk. This is the second deck. See, the card's basically the same, just so you can see it. And we've got the tower. Now, this is not, I want to reiterate, this is not the tarot as we know it. The tower has a definitive meaning. So we'll talk about those first. So there is that nesting, that idea of building things one at a time, one stalk at a time, one little thing at a time, and knowing that when you do that, you end up with a very strong structure. Again, it's not necessarily doing it alone. It's doing it with friends, doing it with people you trust, or eliciting help when you need it. That's that kind of energy with the stalk here. The stalk is fairly elevated. Now, because of the relationships, that I think counts for this here with the tower. Now, the tower is about distance. So it's about distant relationship. It's about, or relationships. It's about things that happen probably online in a modern day. It's not about necessarily being isolated. If you look at the birds, there's comings and goings. There's interactions, all right? The birds can send messages and receive messages. The person's looking out. So while there's a sense of isolation, it's not necessarily as real an isolation as one would think when one just needs to ask for help, you see. One just needs to say, yes, I need something. Yes, I could use something to the right person to find that you've got what you need. And that's what that feels like to me, that we can come to an end of isolation by just reaching a hand out, but, yeah, to the right person, not to somebody who's going to bite it, right, or give you any problems. Now, with the flowers, the little bouquet of flowers, that does indicate a warranted gift, a person offering you something, giving you something, sharing something with you that makes you feel very appreciative. Everybody appreciates getting flowers. Doesn't matter if you're a girl or a guy, there's an appreciation in there, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a powerful thing, because when you appreciate something, there is a change in the way we go forward in life. Now, the 4-leaf clover, it's got only one meaning. It's only ever had one meaning, and that's good fortune. It's luck. In the Lenormand deck here, it's in flower, so it creates more luck. So perhaps appreciating the good fortune that you have, no matter how little it is, when I'm looking at those 2 cards together, when we appreciate good fortune, we create more good fortune. And I know we hear this spiritually, and it's a 3x3 thing, which I don't agree with or believe in at all. But what definitely does happen is when we suspend belief, when something good happens to us and we're thinking to ourselves, I can't believe it, or we're waiting for the moment that it goes wrong, we're actually then creating a different energy around it. When we're really loving it, we're actually creating a stronger energy around it, and we can have a lot of little good fortunes or a big good fortune. I know people that have won. This actually happened. I knew a lady that won. She came for a reading years ago, and she had won. Well, let's start at the beginning. I saw that she was going into some financial difficulties, that she need to think about her expenditure. And I said, and there was money that's come your way, and I just don't see that you've perhaps done the best thing with it. And then she fessed up that years before, a psychic had told her that she was going to come into a lot of money, and she felt it was still coming. And I said, well, I'm not so sure that it's still coming. Are you sure it hasn't already come? Now, hear this and weep, people. She said, I won $17,000 on the lotto a couple of years ago, but that's not a lot of money. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So what she'd done was she'd blasted through that. She'd blasted through gambling. She got into gambling. She was buying it all on the strength of this reading. When she'd won her money, the 17 grand, in her mind, it wasn't enough. In her mind, it wasn't $1 million. But nobody in their right mind would say that's not substantial. And when I said to her, has it occurred to you that the psychic may see 17 grand as a substantial sum, she looked horrified. that she had already won the money. She went on with her husband to lose their house. She had to go back to work when she was near retirement. A whole pile of things eventuated. Now, I know that's partly her personality and where she was heading anyway, but it does show the idea of luck. What is luck? What is good fortune? And it's a very personal thing. For me, if somebody comes up and they tell me where to go fishing and it's the right spot and I catch a lot of fish, I consider myself very fortunate. I went out the other night and ice, hail, rain, and stood there like this, all wrapped up in my own bundle of stuff, like a mountain of clothes on. I had 5 jerseys on, 2 pairs of pants, 4 pairs of socks, the whole 9 yards. I felt very lucky to get that one snapper. Another person might think that was great and good fun and they got it, but they may not consider that good fortune or good luck. So the advice is to appreciate all good luck, because good luck's coming your way. So start appreciating it if the person gives you the pen. Start appreciating it if you find the penny, pick it up. You know that saying? Boasting still, mate. Still. There's no again. There's still. They went up to the office, and one of the guys that took a photo had sent them the picture of it. And they went and they printed off the picture, put it in plastic, and they put it down by the social area down there. So every time I go down now, they point to it and go, mocking me. They're mocking me, yeah. Because they'd all told me I shouldn't go fishing that night. They'd said, don't do it. Don't go. So that's you, Christy. Christy who? Anybody else? A da-da-da guest? Mia, Mags, would you like a reading? You're welcome. So it's really not a matter of saying that you're unappreciative. It's a matter of making sure that you appreciate even the small things to build on that luck, because it can get bigger and better and bigger and better for you. Mags to Mags. Is guest here or is guest a guest? Just checking, because sometimes somebody will come in as a guest and they don't log them out as a guest. They come back in and they've got two files there. But guest, if you want a reading, just say yes, please, and we'll throw you in. They were typing before. I thought so. Okay, so what I've got for you is I've got the man card. Okay, he's the man card. Well, he's the cavalier, actually. And we've got the anchor. And the anchor's an interesting card as it is. Guest, I'll say again, if you want a reading, just pop a yes, please in there. I've got the 2 old owls. I was going to say old owls. The 2 owls. Okay. And we've got the Tree of Abundance, which is always going to be a good card, right? So with the owls, not old owls, but the 2 owls, this is about partnerships being very strong and based in wisdom. That is about any conversation you have with somebody. As you're looking ahead, it's planning. It is wisdom. It's using the wisdom you've got to go to the next step and to, quote unquote, break down walls that are in front of you, that are challenges. So it's using one's analytic mind, usually with another person. You know how you have those conversations trying to nut out a problem? Beautiful, beautiful idea. And that's your way to, more abundance, even more abundance. Now, this is, again, living a life of abundance in general. It's going to be money in there. People say, oh, abundance isn't necessarily about money to that. Of course it is. It's about everything. It's about abundance in friends. It's about abundance in love. It's about abundance in financial stability. It's all of those things, or it isn't abundance. So, and I really go down that track quite strongly. If it isn't all of those things, it isn't abundance. You are abundant in an area. This card isn't about an area. This is the harvest time. The tree has grown. It's providing sustenance for all these little animals and fruit for the family or other people. It's providing shelter and shade. It's showing that the ground is fertile, that it grew out of to be as healthy and strong as it is. So they're a great combination. So expect to be using your resources, your mind, to get further ahead, to take yourself into another space, and expect to be working through any problems or issues easily with wisdom, with all the right things, analysis, getting to the next place. Now, the Cabinet Man and the Anchor is always about work. Believe it or not, it's not about home. In the Lenormand deck, the anchor is about work. It's about the workplace. So when we've got the two things, it's entirely, you may be thinking about income. You may be thinking about structuring how you work. There's definitely a man in the picture for that, whether that's a boss or a partnership. I'm not too clear. But it means that work is calling you at the moment in 4 ways, I don't doubt, to either make more money or to consolidate your position. whatever you've got. It's an I've arrived card too, by the way, so it's being happy in one's work and feeling that it's easy to develop your position, develop where you are to get to the next place and the next space. So I think that's a pretty awesome way to go. Because we've got the wisdom and the work card, the wisdom and the anchor running parallel to each other, their relationship's quite interesting. So it says a position where you can be very creative or you can be very onto it when it comes to the best way to bring money into the household, when it comes to how to get money into the bank, whatever it might be, save for that holiday, putting money and using your resources in a way that actually feel good, I guess, and without necessarily wasting it. You know, we don't feel good if we go and spend $100 getting boozed one night when we're trying to save for a holiday or when we're trying to get something else for ourselves. So usually this will be in the arena of feeling good, meaning feathering one's nest, creating something that's for the future that can help you go forward in a way that makes you feel very solid, very validated, and quite strong. So really interesting 4 cards, actually. Again, like I said, the man's involved in that and 2 owls, so we want to pair those 2 up as well. So it is a partnership, or it is working with somebody or having that conversation with the right person that makes you sort of feel that, yes, we're really getting somewhere, solving these problems, moving to the next stage, developing something. Again, we're going into the future. We're growing a tree. We want it to harvest. So I hope you enjoy that, and I hope it's relevant for you right now. I did not front up and say, but guest, if you would like a reading, just sign into the chat. Just yes, please. We've only got a few more minutes to go, and then we will be moving right along. You're very welcome, my darling, very welcome indeed. On Voices from the Past this week coming, I can't remember what I'm doing, so I might as well not mention it, but next week on A Psychic Affair, we will continue the reading theme. I'd actually written down what I was going to do, and I can't remember. I've just gone blank. I can smell my bread rising, and I've gone blank. We're doing Lenormand today. What was it I thought? Oh, crystal readings. So we'll do crystal readings next week. Choose a crystal, give me a photo, put it on IntuiTalks Facebook and tag me in it, or just put it there, I'll get notified. Put it on IntuiTalks, send me an email. Deb, yes please. No, there we go, Deb, no problem at all. It might be quite wild. Well, it'd be nice to get that last little bit in there. Voices from the Past. We've only got 3 left of that series. If you've missed any and you'd like to catch up, just pop along to my page, my show page, energy-therapies.intuitalks.com, and hit the shows menu, and you can look through and see all of the archive shows. I do delete my reading shows after a time, so it's an important step to remember if you want to catch those. I've left the, what do you call them? I've left the series there, Keepers of the Light, the Mediums, the Heroes and the Hoaxes, and this one, but I'm moving them all through to another space, so you'll only get them. I can't save the videos, but eventually I will take them out. I just leave them a bit longer, so we don't fill up the server. We have got the bear for you, Deb. And we have got the man card. Isn't he handsome? Isn't he handsome? Okay. Yeah. And we've got, this is an interesting, this is a heart, but it's within the flowers. Okay. It has a different, it is the heart, but the different deck. So you can see the heart of the other one had moved towards a tarot style, a modern tarot, Rider-Waite tarot style symbology, where this is more what it would have been like the heart, which has only one meaning, the book for you with the heart. So that's quite interesting. Of a completely different deck to the heart that was in the other, yeah, they were in 2 decks. So what we've got for you, Deb, with that is that you, again, the book is knowledge, and so you may need to know more. There's the heartstrings being pulled, the heart is involved, the emotions are involved. So you may not know as much as you need to know to make choices or decisions at this present time. So it's time to get the information however you can to gain the knowledge rather than responding and reacting. And in particular, we don't want to respond or react in a way that would cause you any problems. The heart being involved is quite a powerful thing, and it says that no matter what you're thinking or where you're at, whether it's a good heart or a challenging heart, and probably an exciting kind of a heart actually, that you are likely to maybe go backwards and forwards with it. You know, when you're in two minds, well, this is more like in two hearts. That idea that for 1 minute it's full on and you feel like you're passionately into something, and the next minute you're not so sure. Doubts, maybe anxieties. The book will always be an indication of some kind of lack of knowledge, which leads to fear, leads to doubt, leads to concern, and leaves you second guessing, or maybe you're not quite listening to your heart right now, not taking on board, a bit scared of making a mistake. It's quite likely. And so trying to analyze your way through emotions actually doesn't really work too well. Now, the bear, we love the bear. The bear is like, it is a bit of a be careful. The bear can provide the honey. It can reach up into the tree. It can be like a favorite uncle kind of an energy, a favorite friend or a person that's very dear to you. But they are wise. They know the way of the world. They take their time. They know when to move. They know when to rest. And so very interesting because we've got this handsome man in there, and he may not be quite as reliable, but he's going to be very forthright. He's going to be very out there. I'm not sure if we're talking about an attraction relationship here because we've got the two male cards, and one's an older man as a rule, or a very wise man, and the other one irascible. Since we've got the heart, I would say that affairs of the heart are going to be drawing you for a little while, but you might be a bit betwixt and between. I would suggest that this person tries to talk you into things. They try to talk you into something, or they can move past your defenses and get you sort of responding or behaving in a way that you might not always prefer to or like, or don't necessarily feel comfortable, or don't feel quite you in the way that you like to deal with the word. But then we've got this wise energy, which is interesting, the old grandfather bear kind of energy. So perhaps there's two blokes or two men, or maybe one man who sort of switches between being a little bit charming and unreliable to being wise or convincing. So with the bear, we are talking about being convinced. The honey's being offered. So it could be the same person performing two ways. Or it could be that somebody near and dear to you is sort of saying, this is the way to go. They could be advising you. I have been studying, and yes, two men. Oh, good. Thank God for that, because I was really finding a hard time making that one guy. I was like, how do I make that one? So really interesting, because we've got the relationship of the book and the bear and the heart. I want to put those three relationships together, cards together in there, and say, you know, if we've got the bear offering the honey, you need to learn more about what's actually in the honey. What's it made of? How natural is it? Is it good for you, or is it just sweet for a while and then it goes a little bit bad? Because your heart's in it, you may not be thinking as clearly as you would normally be. I've got a feeling, forgetting the cards for a second, you radiate a lot of very strong dark green at the back of your head, especially off to the left there, which says that details are important to you. And while I would think that those details and getting it right can lead to a bit of caution. You don't naturally have caution as such, but here you've got an emotional confusion, and that's what I'm sort of picking up as the thing through here. So with this, you definitely need to know more before you act, before you fall into it. And somebody's trying to sell you a product, if they're trying to sell you a course, you say you're studying, you have been studying, they're trying to sell you the next step. Because it's the bear, it's usually somebody you kind of trust, but that doesn't necessarily mean that what they're offering is best for you. It doesn't mean they're deceiving you. It's not a deceptive card. It's a card that what they think is best for you doesn't necessarily match what is best for you. So you need to make your own decision. Does that make sense? There we go. So I'm not sure if it makes sense or not. Yes, it does. Excellent. Make sure that you've got all the information at hand before making a decision. We're on our time limit now, so thank you very much, everybody, for coming along, and we'll catch you on Sunday night, 10 p.m. for Voices from the Past. We don't do readings that night, but next Wednesday we're doing crystal readings, and all you need to do to be part of that is go online, find a crystal, or take a photo of a crystal that you've got. Send it to me, make sure I get it, and you are in the readings. I will read that crystal, I will read why you chose it, and we'll have a bit of fun with that. So remember this week, don't be a part of your own problem. Ciao for now.